Let's introduce Isaac Bolden, who I can remember meeting Isaac the first time in 1973 when I did my round of interviews for Walking to New Orleans, which then became Rhythm and Blues in New Orleans. And if ever there was a hustling young man, I think Isaac was it. Really pushing his product. I didn't realize, Isaac, by then you'd started the Soul-In label in 1966. Can you tell us a bit how you started Soul-In and the problems you had with, once you've got your record, how you promoted it and so on?
Well, the promotion part of it was you had to work the disc jockeys. You had to constantly push them. You had to have a rapport with the disc jockey, which wasn't too hard. By me being young at the time, they were very receptive to me, very receptive, and they liked the records. But you would do where the artists would go on jobs for the disc jockeys, because they all had hops or something. They made appearances. The artists would make appearances for the disc jockeys, and in turn they would get their records played, which was easy. And if you had a good record, they would play it. There was no problem. And I had good records, so I didn't have any problem, you know. And what I would do, my whole thing was, I didn't just think of New Orleans, I thought of the whole country. And my thing was, if I can get enough interest here, then I would license the record to someone like Atlantic, or at the time, it was Dover Records in New Orleans that was a distributor. They distributed nationwide, but Cosmo Matassa's distribution, he had distributors in each state or each major city, but he was based in New Orleans, and he would put the records, would ship them all over the country and take the promotion, but it had to be take over the promotion and the marketing and distribution. So and it's the same formula that like Atlantic would do. If I had because I licensed records back then to Atlantic, get it hot in New Orleans, create some interest through radio and sales. And they would, someone would contact me from Atlantic. Either I would pitch it to them, and they would, either the disc jockeys, I was tight with all of them, would say, well, we had this record that's happening, and then I would make a deal and license it to Atlantic. And I dealt with Jerry Wexler at Atlantic and Ahmed Erdogan. And that's about, and they would take over the radio part. Matter of fact, with the guy that I was working with way back then was Tony Owens. We set up with Atlantic where they sent him on a promotional tour where he worked for disc jockeys in all the major cities. They paid him, and in turn, the disc jockeys paid him. And in turn, he would play for them at different venues that they represented too. And that's how we did it then. That's how I did it.
Okay. I wanted to mention that Isaac it makes him sound like a record man, but Isaac had his finger in a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
He was a session musician on a whole lot of people's records, Johnny Adams, and just name them.
Oh yeah,
piano player.
I wrote, arranged, produced.
Yeah, so
I had my own label. I did the whole. I was the whole package.
Yeah,
I was everything but the artist.
Yeah. So he was very unusual. I mean, he did everything, and then he had the record company and licensed it on top of
Right,
that.
and did the promotion, the marketing. Like when Cosmo went out of business, I dealt with All South in New Orleans, and I manufactured the records. They had a pressing plant in Coldwater, Mississippi, called Plastic Products. They manufactured
That was Buster Williams, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
They manufactured, pressed the records and had them drop shipped to All South. That's
Go ahead.
that's how it was done. But I did it all. But I wasn't the artist.
But I think you had a lot of vision, because you were not thinking about establishing your record company because you knew that was too tough.
That's
too tough.
Too tough. Get it hot and then license to the majors.
There you go.
That was my whole thing.
You mentioned Larry McKinley, who was a
Yeah.
very, very influential disc jockey, and but Larry did one of the things that disc jockeys always do. He had other activities, and one of his great activities was launching record labels. Now, do you remember when he helped to launch Minute Records in 1959?
Yeah, I was a teenager at that time, but Larry knew someone that lived in the next house from me, and I was friends with the lady's son, and they showed me a lot of records that were unfamiliar at that time. It was on a Minute label and even Motown
Right.
label, because I had never heard of those companies. And Larry was involved in the promotion.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he helped to launch NOLA Records, didn't he?
Well, he was
mid-sixties?
involved in, I don't think he was a part of the company. It was my understanding he wasn't a part of the company. He was, when they had a hit, the first big hit they had was Barefoot.
Barefoot, right.
He was involved at that time with part of the publishing, which was, his publishing company was Cold Soul, and Nola's publishing company was Bonnetin.
Yes.
He was involved with that, which that's different from the record company. So but he was, and I think he was influential in, by him having a lot of friends around the country that played music and get in key markets and getting those records played, that record played from the beginning, because it was a good record, first of all. It was a hit record, but you have to have the exposure. And he was the door opener to get it exposed in those key markets.
Right.
And the same with another one, Tell It Like It Is.
Right.
And getting it off the ground, and then the promotion would just snowball from there. That was the formula.
Yeah.
Okay. From my observation.
Right. Really.
Okay.
Let's talk about how you got into the record business and your big success with Tony Owens and Gene Knight and whoever else you want to throw in there.
Okay.
And you also worked as I said, as a session man during that same period of time. And just you can kind of sum it up and or throw in any kind of good stories.
Let's see, where can we start? Okay, with Tony Owens, he and I were in high school together, and I had wanted to be in the record business because I knew people. I knew the people at NOLA Records. I knew Alan Toussaint at that time. Since I was about, the first time I met Alan was a friend of mine. He was recording, and by him, I went to his house for, a friend was rehearsing with Alan, playing piano, and I used to hear all those records on the radio with that piano in it, and by me playing piano, I was drawn to that.
Yeah, as Alan's parents' house in College Court.
Right, that's right.
Emma Thomas, Ernie Cato, everybody coming over to his house to rehearse these songs before they record them.
That's right. And, and so that, being I was about 12 years old. It was very influential. Then my father and Euless Gaines and Wardell and Clinton Scott, which is part of
NOLA.
NOLA.
Right.
Knew all of those people. All of them, they
Right.
played cards together.
Okay.
Poker. They played poker together. They were very good friends, and I was influenced by that. And Clinton Scott told me a lot about the record business. I remember him telling me about the pressing. You get the Mother's Maid, the Masters, and all of that. That's how because I had never heard of that stuff. And he told me, and I was about 13 years old, 14 years old, and so I said, well, now, if I want to do this, I have to. Is that well, no. Okay. If I want to do this, I have to. Everybody had their own arranger. Every company, like Instant Minute and 7B. That's Joe Banner's track. He had Alan Toussaint. NOLA had Wardell. So I said, now if I want to do this, how am I going to get in? So the way that I figured to do it well, start your own label,
Right.
in which you can go to. You have to practice rehearsal. I knew to rehearse, the artist rehearsed, by me being a keyboard, and had the gift of writing songs, and so let's try this. And so that's how I got in. I said, let's try this. And the cost of the studio at that time at Cosmo was $30 an hour, I think. Wasn't that much.
Was Cosmo still doing the sessions himself then, or had he delegated it?
The first session I did, Roberta Grace did it. Then
Roberta?
Yeah. Then Skip. Then after that,
Skip Goodwin?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Cosmo did all my sessions.
He did?
Yeah, he did
Yes.
all of them. Because he liked the sound I was getting, so he wanted to be sure I was getting what I wanted. It was different. Okay, from that point, then Tony and we did maybe 5 songs. And Cosmo had Dover at the time.
Right.
And so I made an appointment to see him. And I played the tape for him. And Bob Robin was working for him then. He and Bob Robin heard the tape. Because Roberta had did the session, but Cos hadn't heard it then. And he said, okay, yeah, I'll distribute this for you. And we made a deal. I licensed those songs to Dover. Okay. That was great. And then the records come out, we got them played easy in New Orleans. Because I knew the disc jockeys, and Bob Robin and Cos knew them. So that was easy. Then Cosmo, during that time, Cosmo had, that was right after Barefoot, and he had Tell It Like It Is.
Right.
And so
Aaron Neville.
that's right.
Yes.
So he had a natural hit. So all his effort went on that, which is right. Because you got to chase, because the competition is so fierce, you got to put all your efforts in that, because that's what's going to bring the money in. So they did that. The record was phenomenal. But he had a problem then with collecting money from, like you said, the 40 distributors around the country. He had a problem. The record was played, like, let's say Larry McKinley got it off the ground in the black. And then from there, it crossed over the pop. It was played and instantly played all over. And he did whatever it took to get it played, with giving free records to the distributors to use their influence on the disc jockeys that in their territories, plus whatever else it took. He did everything he was supposed to take. But when it came time to get paid, that's where the problem is.
Right.
Was he couldn't, see, he had a pressing plant, which that wasn't the main pressing plant, because he explained to me, if you get a hit, when he had a hit record, the one, he had a pressing plant in New Orleans, in Jefferson Parish, right on Jefferson Highway. Okay, he had, that was just to get, to see if he had a record. Yeah, local. But he had pressing plants pressing for him around the country. Because, and he always told me, if you need records in Chicago, Philadelphia, you get a pressing plant near, because time is important.
Save shipping costs too.
And that's right, the economics of it. Then after, okay, when, with all of that, then he owed those people money. Then he owed money to his suppliers for his plant, and for the other pressing plants. You got to pay him, and he hired independent promotion people. You have to pay them, but so you have to have income coming in. Your income is going to come in from the records you sell.
Yeah.
The records you sell through to the distributors, they have to pay you so you can pay your suppliers and to keep the ball rolling.
So you learned a hard lesson from that, didn't you?
Yeah. So if you so what happened? He wasn't able to collect, and then he had his staff working. He wasn't able to collect from the distributors, and the whole thing just,
That was it.
That was it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was it.
Okay, thanks, Isaac. And I
Okay.
think this also illustrates the problems. Tell It Like It Is was on a small label, Parlo.
Parlo.
Yeah.
It was literally the first release, and
The first one just-
they had no follow-up releases to be a hit, and
No album.
no album, and so therefore the distributors had no reason to pay
That's right.
the bill.
Yeah. Now Cosmo was handling, that's Dover, was handling all that. But when Dover went out of business, I said, I'm gonna do it myself. This is what I did. I talked with Henry Hildebrand at All South, and he told me, just press 500 records, and I'll give him 3, keep 2 for myself. He said, if I need more records, I'll reorder from you. And then you tell the plant, okay, he wants 1,000. Just call the plant, and he'll drop ship them to him. Now, and I did this I just paid for the initial pressing, which was very little. You pay for your labels, your mastering, and that's it. Maybe about the first 500 records, maybe like $250. That's the first 500. Then, if the 300 sell, because I kept 2 and spread to the disc jockeys, give samples out to the jukebox companies. Then, if those would sell, okay, Henry, I don't have any money, but you want these reorders. You owe me money, that's why you're reordering. You pay for the pressing. And so he did. And just I deducted from my bill. So the cost was very minimal to me. And that, I think, was very good, because I did the session, had to pay for the studio and make some arrangements with the studio, but that was ideal situation for me. Because on the one I did, which really did well, was on Tony Owens' Confessing a Feeling. Before I licensed it to Atlantic, I had sold in New Orleans about 22,000. And only thing I had to pay for was the initial pressing. After that, I just deducted, when I would invoice him, he would deduct, he would pay for the pressings. So it was easy. And that's it.
When you licensed out your records, I'm curious, what was the business arrangement like? Like, did you the labors all controlled for cash, or was it a partnership thing?
Or partnership
Partnership.
sort of thing. Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely. And I retained the publisher.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you did very well with that, with investing a feeling and some of the
Oh,
other
yeah.
things that you
Oh, yeah,
had.
yeah. And especially now with the rap that I
sampling.
did later, with the sampling and everything, it's great.
How many gold records you said you had on your wall?
Right now, 4.
Wow.
4 albums.
Are those from rap samples primarily?
All rap.
Wow.
All rap.
Okay.
Except for now the single was with Gene Knight. Hers went
Toot Toot.
Yeah, Toot Toot. Yeah, that went gold. Which just started out with the formula that I used right here in New Orleans. Then I licensed it to Atlantic, and they took it out the rest of the way.